This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, non-stop Leafs talk starts now.
Happy Thanksgiving, Devils fans. The win streak is over. It's a Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take. No more fun and games. Rosie's back on home turf. Nick Alberga and Jay with you. Leafs are feeling good. So are we on this American Thanksgiving. But as a non-football lover, Rosie, I have no clue what I'm going to do today.
This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
What's going on? The win streak's over. It's the Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take. No more fun and games. Rosie's back on home turf. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with you. And Jay, as a non-football watcher and lover, I have no clue what I'm going to do on this Thursday, man. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good, buddy. Good to be back. And what a game last night. Lots to talk about, man. Excited to get rocking with all that stuff. So, yeah, no, football, it's kind of all there is right now. But if you don't like it, you might as well get into it, I guess, eh?
That's true. Unlikely I will do that today. I'll probably take a personal day to myself and just rewind and relax and get set for a busy slate of NHL action coming up on Friday. Remember to subscribe, tap that like button, leave a review. Don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest and all things Toronto Maple Leafs. Thoughts, comments, concerns, or questions, drop us a line in chat down below. We got a couple Devils fans chiming in already. That was something special. The shit show at the Rock on Wednesday night. In all your years of pro hockey, Johnstown, Springfield, Norfolk, Mississippi, Philadelphia, Valley, Braehead, Manchester, do you recall playing in front of a crowd as gritty and as heated as the one last night at the Prudential Center in Newark, Rosie?
Yeah, definitely not in the National League. You go to some Bush League barns where they're throwing keychains at you and spark plugs and whatever else. But no, that's pretty Bush League at the Prudential Center, but I guess that's just kind of the class of New Jersey, you know what I mean? They just don't have a whole lot of it looks like.
Yeah, we'll see if some Devils fans pop up in the chat. Mendy writes in, how much money did you pay those refs asking for? And yes, because the entire league is for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I love how every fan base thinks the officials and the refs are after them. It's hilarious to me.
I forgot about that. I forgot that people like think that from when I played, like that they're biased towards us. It's like the league needs to make money for the teams that struggle, and the last team they're given, some conspiracy behind closed doors. Hey, make sure you disallow 3 of the Devils' goals because they got a heater going and we want to make sure tonight. It's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Team has so much money, the league is not worried about doing them favors. And I forgot about that whole concept that I was reading on in Twitter where people are seriously thinking that they're in cahoots. The refs get together with the league and try to help the Maple Leafs out. It's just the biggest bullshit line I've ever heard. Bush League.
Really is astonishing. You're right. With that in mind, let's get over the boards. And so just like that, the 13-game win streak for the Devils is over. The Maple Leafs almost did it last Thursday, by the way, but they followed through this time around behind a first NHL goal from Pontus Holmberg. Your guy, Matt Murray, was incredible. 34 saves, 3-1-1. The Leafs shot 30-10 in the final 2 periods of the game last night.
Yeah, pretty solid, man. I mean, back and forth. I mean, everyone's going to talk about the 3 goals that got disallowed, but, that was a pretty good hockey game back and forth. Both teams had their scoring chances. I thought Murray was fantastic, really solid in there again. That he hasn't looked anything but really solid this entire year, including preseason, which I just love. He's healthy right now, and I mean the only thing that could stop him right now is to get injured again. But their team was hitting the post. People were saying that we got outchanced and it should have been 5-2 or something. What about the chances for the Maple Leafs? I mean, that sick dish by Matthews, I think, over to Nylander. It's in the back of the net back door. He just happens to put that right back in the breadbasket. Tavares had a phenomenal chance, deking wide on in the third period there. It could have the game almost out of reach, and he just, for some reason, couldn't stuff it into the corner there. And lots of chances both ways. Thought it was a wicked game, and all 3 of those goals, 2.5 of them anyway, didn't need to be counted. It's just the way it goes.
Incredible hustle by Mitch Marner on the opening goal, by the way. I really felt like that set the tone, and it's great to see. The compete level has just been up big time, a 14-game point streak now for Mitch Marner. He's been remarkable, and you're right on the disallowed goals. Like, I think in a perfect world, I'd probably allow the first goal. Like, I didn't see as much of a problem with the other 2. Clearly, I think they were black and white, the kicking motion and also the goal interference. Whether you think Matt Murray embellished or not, every goalie in this league dives. I'm sorry to break it to any goalie watching right now, but it is the truth. The first one, I probably could have allowed. But again, the bounce has gone, away from the Maple Leafs in the last couple of years. So to get the bounces, I think was great to see. And I think I got no time for fans to anything on the ice. But yeah, like it's very rare you see 3 disallowed goals in one game, right?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those that happens. I mean, sometimes a puck will go over the glass 10 times in one game, and then another game it'll go over 0 times. Like, what is the reason for it? Nothing. It's just shit happens. It's just one of those things. And yeah, I agree with you. The last 2 goals, absolutely no goal. The one he just flat out soccer boots it in the net, and then the second one, Matt Murray's playing the puck in the trapezoid, and I mean, you play hockey your entire life. You've gotten to the NHL. You know that if you go to the inside and the goalie's trying to get back to his net and you bump him, it's just automatic. It's just always has been, always will be, not even a chance. And even on the first one, man, especially on the overhead view, Murray tries to go down into the butterfly to get that left side, and he bumps into the guy's skate. So he comes out of the butterfly, and the puck comes, and then he tries to get back into the butterfly. And if that guy's not there, he's in that position to make a save, and everyone's like, oh, he barely touched him. Well, the game of inches is this freaking big for a goalie. You're up against that post, and they're going to pick the inside of the post. You got to get there, and if you can't because there's a skate in your way, get the fuck out of the crease. So if that could have gone either way, but I mean, you're prohibiting him from making the move he's trying to make the save. So I mean, just a weird thing that it's 3 in a row, but I thought they could call right on all of them, and I don't give a shit if that's. I'm not biased on that. There's a lot of times where the Leafs get goals called back. Well, that's not the goal, sucks, but that's the way it is.
It really is the age-old debate in the sport, goalie interference specifically. And, I'll admittedly, I just don't know what is or isn't goalie interference anymore, but certainly I've seen more blatant non-calls and calls as opposed to last night. But the fans were pissed off. I get it. But I also understand you've won 13 games in a row. You're not going to win every game. And I understand you think the officials are against you, but where have they been the last 13 fucking games? That's my question, Rosie. Why haven't the officials been against them the last 13? Why haven't they been against them when they played the Leafs last week?
Dude, they're not against them. It's just one of the games in the Leafs. They're the fans of that team are pissed off that their streak is over in that way. Yeah, kind of frustrating, kind of annoying. But they didn't show up to win. They didn't dominate the game, and yeah, they scored a couple that legally scored. You can't knock a goalie over and score in an empty fucking net. You can't boot a puck inside of the that's just not the way it goes. And there's absolutely no reason for the league to not want that streak to keep going on and to create some, do you think they're going down to the and saying, hey, we got to get some disallowed goals. If anyone kicks one or bumps the goalie or something, you make sure that you call that back because we really want this streak ended. Like, for what reason, man? They like the streak going on. It's a story. It's an unexpected team that's lighting it up right now. And where will they go? There's no reason, but it's just the stupidest thing I ever heard. And classless bullshit Bush League stuff by chucking so much shit on the ice that the team has to leave the bloody ice. I mean, it's pretty Bush League, but whatever. I think it's kind of funny when it does happen when you're on the ice because it's just exciting, I guess. But I don't really care. Just I'm glad fans aren't doing it.
Yeah, that was the loudest I've heard that building, and I guess that city, because they've changed buildings since the Martin Brodeur era. It's been that long since the Devils have been relevant. It's great to see they're on fire, but not anymore. The Leafs win it 2-1. From there, we roll on to the trade. We had Frank Saravalli on the program yesterday. He hinted the fact that a trade could be in the works, and it's probably not to the degree or level that we expected, but the Leafs acquire Conor Timmins from Arizona. They give up Curtis Douglas, who, by all accounts, I'm not sure if he's going to be a full-time NHLer. You just never know. The guy's a friggin' weapon, man. He's massive, massive frame on this from Oakville, Ontario. But we saw a bit in the preseason, by the way. But obviously, there's a big-time need. There's a big-time need for D on this team. He's a right-handed shooting guy. He's only 24. There's an injury history. And yes, Rosie, there's ties to Kyle Dubas and the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. How about that?
Well, why wouldn't there be? I mean, you might as well just call the Sioux Greyhounds the pipeline for the Toronto Maple Leafs at this point in time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess it's just what a guy knows, and it's where the most information he's getting influxed from is that organization, those ties. So he tends to lean that way, I guess. It's kind of odd that you'd find guys that you feel are perfect for this organization out of the same place so often that you came from. It seems a little bit biased, but whatever. Like you said, you give up Kurt Douglas, and whatever, if he's going to become something you don't know. And, if Timmins becomes something we don't know, but the bottom line is there is a reason we got him so cheap. It's because, he hasn't been phenomenal and he's having injury hit. But bottom line is he's a young defenseman who, yeah, you have some injuries. Oh, what if now he's healed up? And what if he has no more injuries? He's a second round drafted defenseman. We just got him for hardly anything. There's just as good a chance that he turns out to be, a pretty solid player that can play on this lineup and right now and in the future. And away we go. And we look back and say, wow, how about scooping him up for cheap, or else it's just a warm body to fill in the holes right now that we have for injuries. One of the two things. But bottom line is it's nothing wrong with it. I think they got him cheap, and it's there's potential there.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, the Leafs got a bit of a scare last night. Jordy Ben left the game, but the guy's an absolute warrior. He came back for the third period. Their depth is certainly being tested. It goes without saying right now, and I think anybody you can add with NHL experience, you do so. But as you saw the tweet up, about a minute ago or so, like I did some digging. Morgan, who covers Arizona, said this guy's been banged up a lot, as we know, just 8 games total as a member of Arizona. And if you do remember a couple years back, Colorado, due to salary cap reasons, had to trade this guy. They had no room for him on the back much, and that's pretty much a byproduct of what they've built with that organization. But it just hasn't gone according for plan since Timmins left the Colorado Avalanche. Of course, he played for the Canadian World Junior team a couple of years back as well, but just has been really injured. And it just makes me wonder that one of the worst teams in the league had no use for this guy, but now all of a sudden he's probably going to be in the top 4 for the Maple Leafs. But to your point, anything is possible. The pedigree's there. There's a reason why this is where he was, as you mentioned, and I think we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll just see if he can truly stay healthy here.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big thing, staying healthy. But, they did what they had to do. And, I mean, well, why did we get this guy? Well, that was all that was available. You can't just go and magically make things appear. That's all that's available. And like you say, his pedigree is there. So why not? What does it cost us to get? I mean, not very much. So, a big prospect, or a large-bodied prospect, but, nothing crazy selling the farm. And, I mean, I just stop and take a look at, what is this team going through right now with injuries? Both their starting goaltenders have been injured at the same time. You got, maybe your weakest link of your, your whole team is the defensive core. They are wiped out with injuries, and we're still winning games. We're knocking off, premier teams on absolute heaters every week. We're chipping points out of quality teams, getting games into overtime, just chipping away at points, climbing in the standings when we have every reason to be falling to the bottom and saying, well, it's not our fault. Look at what we're going through. Just a wicked sign. It's nice to press pause every once in a while and say, what's going on right now? And are we happy with it or not? And fuck, how can you not be happy with this? I mean, it's the worst case scenario, and it's going as good as it possibly can go. So I have faith that, this is a quality team, and they're going through adversity right now, and it's not the most critical time in the season, and it's only going to make them tougher, I think.
It's funny. They're 11-5-5, but could easily be 16-5, right? They're 1-5 in extra time. You flip those down, next thing you know, you have 16 wins. But you mentioned they're feeling good as we American Thanksgiving here, and it is the old adage in the NHL world. You like to look at the standings at American Thanksgiving. If you're in a playoff spot, you're feeling good about life. I did some background on this, I guess, dating back to last season. And 12 of the 16 teams that were in a playoff spot last season at November 25th, which was American Thanksgiving last season, went on and make the Stanley Cup playoffs. So suffice it is to say, the Leafs are feeling good. Not to mention, there was a rarity that happened last night. They actually gained ground on the Boston Bruins because the Bruins actually lost the hockey game. It's crazy. Crazy concept.
I know it doesn't happen very often this year, does it? But they're rolling. They continue to roll. Dropped one last night, but I mean, man, every time they do drop one, you want to try to get one and get that 4-point game, because, man, they're pulling away, and they got a big gap, and there's lots of time to make it up. And I mean, do you have to win your conference or your division? Not necessarily, but it's tough to catch those boys. Those bees are buzzing, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Boston's been really, really good. Of note, too, their 3 losses have come all against Atlantic Division foes. Once again, one against Ottawa, one against the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, and last night against the Florida Panthers. Then you would have to think at some point Boston's come a bit back down to reality. I mean, they're 17-3 to 20 games. Like, that is tremendous. And I thought it was fascinating too last night that the two hottest teams in the league both lost in regulation in the form of the Devils and the Boston Bruins. But certainly, a lot has changed with the picture with the Maple Leafs, Rosie, in say the last 3 weeks, right? Dating back to October, they were 4-4-2. The sky was falling, many calling for Barry Trotz. And well, I've been steadfast in staying consistent with the fact that I do think it is the same team, a wagon of a regular season team that has continued here in the month of November. They're playing really, really well. So how about that for a vote of confidence?
I like it. This is a new Nikolai we're seeing, isn't it?
Not really, no.
Well, yeah, I like it. I mean, it's a long season, and I understand the adage of the Maple Leafs
Yeah.
fans, just like, oh, well, we've seen this before, but like, it is a different team. I mean, you don't even have a single goaltender that's the same guy. I mean, the strategies might be different, the lines are different, the Ds are different, like lots of things are different. It's a different mentality. They're not going to mix up this year for last year as far as just how things are. It's a different team. There could be different staff around. You got different shit going on, different systems, maybe different style of cutting down video. You got different practice, different drills, different players. It's just a different year, man. So I know this team's kind of done the same thing, but I believe it's because you're in that market, and you always have that. And why is it? It's because no one gives them the time of day. They can get 115 points and everyone still doubts them, and it just makes it hard to win. So it's like that never-ending cycle of chicken or the egg. But bottom line is, this team needs to pull out and win a playoff series, and I have money on it that they will do that. So I mean, just sit back and enjoy the ride, and enjoy time where the team is good. They're in the top, 5 in the NHL right now. Just enjoy the time that this team is good, because it's gonna come to an end, and you're gonna have to go through a rebuilding process, and it's gonna be painful, and you're gonna wish you had these days back.
Yeah, I always like to say enjoy the regular season because the heartbreak happens in the time, right? So I like to savor the taste. Like with any meal you eat, Rosie, whatever you ate on your trip in California, I'm sure you had a couple good feeds now and again. I like to savor the taste of an 82 game regular season because I know what's ahead. I know that bitter taste, that ugly feel is coming up in the springtime. So I do enjoy the regular season. I will preface by saying that.
Okay, you tell me this: is your money on them getting to the second round or not?
No, no.
It's You think you're gonna blow up in the first round again?
In
Oof.
fact, every season it's become a ritual where I put money on the opponent to win in 7 games. So I've actually made money. Look, I hope they finally do it. And again, until you do it, you haven't. And a perfect example of that is the Washington Capitals, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I can go on and on of teams that have struggled for years and years and years and finally broke through. But I just look at this team, and while you'll disagree, I think it's the same team with the same list of core players, and I just don't know if these guys can win. But again, if I'm wrong, I'm more than happy to be wrong. I just think I've seen this rodeo way too many times. You lose to Columbus, you lose to Montreal, you lose to Tampa, where they thought they had the Lightning put away, put to rights, and they didn't. There's just been so many years where they've done the exact same thing, where they've dominated the regular season, where it's most so I think Leafs fans are prepared for the regular season. They're prepared for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I think until they're proved otherwise, that's how they're going to feel, sadly.
Yeah, very possible, but I think the difference is going to be goaltending this year. I think you got a 1-2 punch. I think this is panning out and has panned out already. These goals are
Yeah.
both fucking legit. And then I think guys like Mitch Marner and William Nylander, I think they're more mature. I think they're just better players. I think they understand what losing feels like winning feels like, what the difference is in their games. I think John Tavares can just absolutely lead the way. I think he can go down as one of the best Maple Leafs captains in recent history easily. And he's found another step in his game and is able to turn it on. And the only thing they need to do is get their bottom six and their secondary scoring going, and getting those guys to find their stuff. And if they can just add a
Yeah.
defenseman with some integrity, like a solid defenseman with a name, and figure out how to insert that into the lineup, I think away they go. I think they could get to the Eastern Conference Finals easily, and who the hell knows after that. But I believe in this roster. They've showed that they can play some consistent hockey against some really good hockey teams.
I love your optimism. The comparable I would make is the Florida Panthers. They won the President's Trophy last season. They've toned it back a bit. They made a trade. Matthew Tkachuk's going to be a beast for them in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And as we look at the standings here on American Thanksgiving, they're actually, struggling right now, right? They're on the borderline right now in terms of what to do. They beat the Boston Bruins, so they're feeling much better. But again, they've sort of punted things down the road. They sacrificed some points in the regular season to address some needs in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think until the Leafs lay, I just think it's going to be the same old show. But again, I hope I am incorrect. I understand what you're saying, and I do enjoy and love your optimism, Rosie. I will say that. I think we're a perfect blend of good and bad here.
I'll battle you all year, buddy. I love it.
Can't wait for the show coming up in January as well. Rosie's coming to town. We're going to hit the alumni box, and then we're going to hit the town. With that in mind, the wrap-up is brought to you by our friends at PointsBet Canada. So big time L for yours truly last night. I was on the over, and I said my philosophy pre-Thanksgiving is the over. I think you look around the league, there was a lot of overs, just not in the Leafs and Devils game, and I could never have forecasted that type of outing. Both Vitek, Vanacek, and Matt Murray, they were tremendous. So I'll take the L, but this was preordained. I said, Rosie, you have Thursday slate. There's no hockey. I could not care less about football. So what do you got for us today?
Oh, I've been waiting all year for this. Big bet. Get your wallets out. This one's a guarantee, sure thing, can't miss. Promise you. Vikings against the Patriots. I got the Vikings -2.5. And the reason is they're an 8-2 team, quality team against an average Patriots team. They just got blown out by the Cowboys last week. It was a sleeper game. Why did they get blown out? They had that miracle win against Buffalo. It was kind of like a hangover type of thing where they just did not show up. And then I think the Patriots are a little bit too pumped up right now because they barely won last week, and they won because of a punt. So I think that a little bit skewed. I think the Vikings are a much better team, and I think they're going to smash them. And to not even spot them a field goal is an easy pick for me. Vikings -2.5. The money's pretty good at -115 too. So just hammer that. Bet the farm, bet the mortgage, bet the college fund. It's a guaranteed thing. Slam dunk. End of story.
Whew. Okay. You sold me. I just love the conviction and confidence at which you said that. So that's why I'm going to roll with you today, Rosie.
Oh, man, I was too excited to do that. I hope I don't get absolutely rinsed, but that's betting, baby.
No, that's exactly what PointsBet Canada is looking for: conviction, confidence, and enthusiasm. And you brought the big three on the show today. Of course, coming up on Friday, Rosie, it's a matinee affair. We love these, at least here on this program. A 2 Eastern start time. I believe in your world, that's what, noon local mountain, right?
Noon o'clock. That'll be kind of different, won't it?
It will. And the Leafs visiting the Minnesota Wild. Early look at that one. I'm probably looking at the over. The Wild always seem to hit the over. They crushed Winnipeg last night, by the way. They're feeling much better about life, so I would look at that game. Certainly, we're going to have the show with you tomorrow, but 3 Hits with Rosie will make its triumphant return. You're working, of course. By the way, Dave Pagnotta of the fourth period will drop by, covers the Leafs, covers the NHL Insider. So we got his thoughts maybe on the Leafs, Conor Timmins, potentially the trade market starting to percolate a bit here as we reach American Thanksgiving. So a lot to cover, but I can't wait for 3 Hits with Rosie tomorrow.
I have this feeling I'm going to light you up on it. I'm already percolating in my mind how I'm going to introduce you into 3 hits here and just tear apart your whole thesis on the season.
I'm sorry, dude. When I had to sit through a pandemic and I had to sit through a loss to the Columbus fucking Blue Jackets, I can feel that way, dude. It was my birthday in Columbus. I wanted to go out and get rinsed, and I had to go watch the Leafs in my condo here in Toronto get beat by the fucking Columbus Blue Jackets with Boone fucking Jenner. With the most respect to Boone Jenner, he's a local product. He's tremendous. He's everything to that team. But it was a mismatch on paper, and the Leafs to Columbus. So that's why I feel that way. Okay.
Hey, I understand, man. I'm just injecting some new, non-jaded, non-tainted market is what and it's gonna go viral. It's gonna spread, and it's gonna be the difference to get the Leafs over the hump this year.
And just for good measure, they lost to the Montreal Canadiens, who are absolutely terrible. I know they had Carey Price, but Toronto didn't even show up for that series. Maybe it was the no crowd thing. Maybe again, we love giving excuses in this market and this country and this city. I was loving yesterday, and I get Canada hasn't played a World Cup game in a long time, but it was a very Canadian response on social media. It was like, bravo, bravo. They played well, but yeah, a loss is a fucking loss, man.
That's right. I hear you, man. Well, the Leafs aren't having many of them this year, so keep it going right into those playoffs because I would love. I'm going to think of a side bet that me and you are going to have all season long, actually.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. And by the way, those Wagon Coyotes, who I called them an ECHL team when they lost to the Leafs, they beat Carolina last night. So they beat some pretty good teams and are actually off to a pretty decent start, all things considered. But we'll leave it at that. That's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Take care.